Welcome to Codex, History of Video Games. My name's Tyler Osby.
And I'm Mike Coletta.
And this week we're going to cover a really old game that I had never heard of until you told me that this game existed, Mike.
Dude, I had never heard of this either. So let me look at the script here, because we're going to talk about 3 games today, all in a series called Swordquest. It was supposed to be 4 games. This was on the Atari 2600. So it's supposed to be 4. We only got 3. And that's because the series didn't finish all the way, but I'll explain what happened. The reason we're talking about this, and I think why it's relevant, is this is one of the first examples of like a video game contest, and it's kind of like, I don't want to say it's an ARG because it's not augmented reality. It's like a puzzle between video games and comic books. That's probably the better way. That's how it is. That's what it is, essentially.
Okay.
So, and we'll talk about how that works later on. But the prizes were pretty crazy for the time. Like, it's got this strange partnership going on between 3 companies that are all under one parent company, and that's what made this happen. So we'll get to that. But before I do, I want to mention this was a suggestion from Burger Champ on Discord all the way back on June 29th, 2021. And I found it in our episode ideas document, which is a great example of saying, hey, if you do recommend something, we will get to it eventually. It just might take 5+ years.
We do look at them. I don't want to say we'll get to everything, but we do look at them. And
we're doing this and we're getting everything. We're getting everything on that list, Tyler. I'm so sorry. We can't stop until we hit it. We're actually cursed by the podcasts. Yeah.
The podcast genie cursed us?
That's right. That's right. So we're going to start by doing Grime Facts, but it's going to be a combined Grime Facts of all 3 games. And the 3 release games are called Swordquest Earthworld, Swordquest Fireworld, and Swordquest Waterworld. And my main sources for this entire thing today are 3 articles. There's an Atlas Obscura article called The Quest for the Real-Life Treasures of Atari's Swordquest. There's a Eurogamer article called The 35-Year-Old Hunt for Swordquest's Lost Treasures. And then lastly, there's a Polygon article called Atari Swordquest Comics Returns Dynamite Entertainment. And that's kind of related to something in the end, but it's still worth talking about. So the developers of the game are Atari at first, and then much later Digital Eclipse, and we'll talk about that in the legacy section at the end. The release dates for the games are the following. For Earthworld, it was October 1982. For Fireworld, it was February 1983. And for Waterworld, it was February 1984, but that was a very limited release, and we'll talk about that. Notice, though, this is during the prime time of Atari development cycles where it's like months between games.
It's like one person made it in like 6 months, 3 months.
Yeah, because like Fireworld came out, what's that, 5 months after Earthworld, which is kind of wild. So the original way to play it is on the Atari 2600. There is an Atari collection. I think it's just called Atari 50. We'll talk about that later too, that you can play these games on. And you can also just, I'm going to say it, these games are over 40 years old. Just emulate them. If you want to emulate it, I don't think anyone's going to get mad at you. Okay?
With your own legal copy, of course.
Yeah, with your own legal copy. That's always the caveat. I always mean that. Right?
Yeah. Yep.
Everyone knows. There's an asterisk there.
That's
okay.
Right.
We know from one of these articles that Earthworld sold around 500,000 copies. I couldn't get sales figures for the other ones that were accurate.
That seems pretty good for an Atari game, right?
Yeah.
How many consoles did Atari sell?
2,600.
I'm looking. Around 30 million units lifetime. Okay. So.
Wow. Yeah. So, I mean, that's pretty good. Pretty darn good. The gameplay style, it's interesting because everyone in their articles calls this an action-adventure game, but it's definitely a puzzle game, too. And we'll talk about the gameplay after I watched it. But the time to beat is fantastic for these. Earthworld, 30 minutes. Fireworld, 1 hour. And Waterworld, 33 minutes.
Is this like Nintendo hard where it's like you have to... Yeah, sure. You can beat like Battletoads in 20 minutes or whatever, but to get to the point where you can actually beat it in 20 minutes, you have to spend dozens of hours like getting good.
So I would say, yeah, maybe you spend dozens of hours getting good, but the way the games are designed, it doesn't look like there's a fail state, at least when I watched it. And I could have been watching it on an emulator, so maybe the guy was using like unlimited lives or something, but I didn't see... It's like if you fail the challenge, you just go back to the start and you try the challenge again. And we'll talk about the how the challenge kind of works. And this is way too old for a Metacritic score, to be honest. It's just super old. I guess I could have looked at the Metacritic score for Atari 50, but that's like a collection of a bunch of Atari games. So I didn't really do that. The plot of the game is pretty simple, and this is from Atlas Obscura. It's the tale of twins Tara and Tor as they embark on a quest to defeat the evil Tyrannus and collect the very same prizes that the players were trying to win in the real world.
In the real
Their ultimate
world?
goal is the Sword of Ultimate Sorcery. Okay, and this is me talking again. The Sword of Ultimate Sorcery. I feel like they're kind of phoning that in.
Well, this was early days, though. They didn't have to be like...
That's true.
You know, they didn't have to be unique in their sword names because, like, how many swords were there? Dozens?
That's true. Maybe dozens.
It's like the Sword of a Thousand Truths from South Park.
Mm-hmm. You're going to trust that to a noob? You're going to do that? Really? So yeah, the Sword of Ultimate Sorcery. The point is these twins are trying to get the Sword of Ultimate Sorcery to defeat the baddies. That's the whole story plot. There's more to it than that. I'm not going to go deep into it because I think the whole point of this is really to talk about the contest. So there's like an added section later about the contest. So we're just working our way to that. So gameplay-wise, now let's keep in mind, this is an Atari 2600 game. The gameplay is pretty simple. You move around a map of a room, and you move items into the adjoining rooms to solve puzzles. But when you move into the room, there's like a loading screen of a door, and then sometimes there are mini games that take place. And the best way I can describe the mini games is they are other Atari games, like reskinned other Atari games. For example, in the Earthworld game, you work your way from the bottom of the screen to the top, jumping on these magical red platforms to get to the door. And I was watching this and I was like, this is just Frogger. We're playing Frogger right now. That's what we're doing. And every once in a while, you do get to place an item in a different room, and 2 numbers will pop up on the screen, and that's important for the puzzles. So we'll get to that when we talk about the puzzles later. In Fireworld, though, it's the same thing. You even get like the same door loading animation. It's just a different sound cue with it too. And the mini games are different though. So one of them is an endless runner, where it's like a top-down style endless runner where you have to dodge objects coming at you. The other one is a shooting game where what look like snakes come at you from different directions. I think there's an Atari game where you're like in a tank and fire at things, or even asteroids, right? That's coming from all sorts of different directions. Mm-hmm. It's pretty much asteroids. And then the last game is, from what I can tell, just Space Invaders, straight up. Just like you're a vehicle and you're shooting things coming down at you, but you're playing Space Invaders. And then lastly, in Swordquest Waterworld, I actually Googled Waterworld to get more information, and it turned out to be the Waterworld game from like the 90s.
Oh, yeah.
The movie Waterworld.
They did make a... well, I guess they didn't make a Atari game that was Waterworld, did they?
No, they made a different... I think it was an SNES game, but it was with Kevin Costner, the movie game. So it's pretty funny. But in Waterworld, you play some Frogger, so there's some more Frogger in it, but this time they also stick to the ocean theme. So you actually do puzzles, if you can call them puzzles. It's really just you swimming across a screen, kind of trying to dodge sharks and jellyfish and work your way down to a door or the other side of the screen. So they do a little more ocean theming. But here's my main takeaway with these games, gameplay-wise, is with the items, I had no idea what was going on. Like, I know what these are about, like, because each game has a certain piece of spirituality about it, and we'll talk about that actually in just like a paragraph. But it's like, if I didn't know that, I would truly have no clue what's going on. So, because the puzzles in this game are based on different, and this is important, non-IP subjects in spirituality from around the world. Okay, so Earthworld was themed after the Western Zodiac. Fireworld is themed after the Kabbalah Tree of Life, and Waterworld is after like chakras. And then the unreleased Airworld was going to be modeled after the I Ching, which is like translated roughly to the Book of Changes. It's a Chinese divinity book, essentially, like a really, really old book. So they were going to use that to do the last one. So it's kind of like you got to know about these 4 old texts to solve the puzzles, which I thought was kind of cool.
Like, so you would be, you are incentivized to like look up these old texts to solve. Okay.
And learn them. And so you might be saying to yourself, hey, Mike, these games, To be honest, sound kind of lame.
I was saying that to myself. Yeah, I didn't want. I wasn't going to say it out loud, but you said it.
Dude,
so.
we all thought it, and I would say yes, they do sound lame. But there's a reason why you would purchase them and play them in 1982, and that reason gets us to the contest. So these games were advertised as a contest, and I'm going to show my first little thing here, Tyler. Do you want to look at it?
Yeah.
Can you do a screen share thing
do
we got going on
share here?
Hopefully my social security number is not on here. That's another puzzle that's built into it, right? Look for my social security number in the Swordquest advertisement. So this is it up right now?
Yeah.
Can I start to So this is the advertisement for why you would want to play Swordquest. You can win these actual treasures. And you're like, oh, like plastic replicas? No. Real gold, real jewels, like real metal, valued. Like these are, so the 4 right here, the little, I don't know if you can see my mouse, but the 4 ones on the bottom, there's a pennant, a chalice, a crown, and then like a little box, it looks like. Those 4 are each worth $25,000 in real life human money in 1982.
Sheesh.
Then the sword was valued at $50,000.
Who would pay $50,000 for it?
Well, that's the thing is, I mean, that's the cost of the metal.
Oh,
like the value of the metal.
Like the intrinsic value.
The intrinsic value of these precious metals and jewels that are put into here.
Wow.
And we'll get to how they did this. But that's what the contest was. So sorry if you're listening to audio only, but I'll put these in the Discord. I'll try to. Maybe I'll do it tonight. I'll be like, hey, guess what's coming out tomorrow? And I'll put these images in there. So you can look at them in the Discord while you're listening to it. So that's what these 4 items were. And this little article here kind of talks about the comics and how it's a partnership between DC Comics and Atari and then another company that we'll talk about that I thought was really weird. So there, we can cancel the screen share now if you want. But I just wanted to show everyone what the advertisement looked like.
Okay. Yeah. So how would I go about getting those? I buy the game and now tell me how to get the cool money thing.
So you'd have to solve the puzzles. And solving the puzzles meant you could win these actual relics, but you would have to like go through and like, okay, I'm going to talk about the puzzles work. It's kind of, I almost got ahead of myself there. So the puzzles were solved using the video game and the comic book. And I'm pulling this directly from the Atlas Obscura article because they do a way better job explaining it than I do. So here it is. Quote, they had they had to place specific items in each room to uncover numeric clues that would point towards word clues in the accompanying comic book. For instance, leaving the grappling hook in the Cancer room and the rope in the Leo room would reveal the number clue 25-6. This led players to page 25, panel 6 of the Earthworld comic book, where the word "the" was hidden within the background illustration.
Whoa.
So you would play the game, place the items, get a number, take that number, look in the comic book, and look for in the background for a word. And you're trying to get a 5-word phrase, but there's 10 words in the comic book in the background.
Oh.
So you can be wrong. And before we get further into the contest and how it went down, I'm going to talk about development real quick because I feel like that's a big part of it.
Mm-hmm.
So the idea for Swordquest came about from 2 things. First, the Atari 2600 game Adventure, which was kind of a big hit. I don't know if we've ever talked about Adventure.
I don't think
so.
We
talked about Gauntlet.
We've talked about Adventure in the context of like talking about Atari games when we go through like Ultimate History of video games and stuff, but I don't think we've ever done anything dedicated to Adventure.
Yeah, I don't think we've ever done that either. So we could get that. But according to Atari historian Kurt Vendel, quote, marketing thought it would be a great idea to create a series of games where players would have to find clues both in-game and physical materials, end quote. So that was from the interview in the Atlas Obscura article. So if you recall our previous episodes from the Ultimate History of Video Games, you may recall that we are right now in 1982 and arcade games are at their peak, which means something's going to happen in 1983. But right now, things are great. And this sounded like a great idea, right? So this prompted Atari, then owned by parent company Warner Communications, to begin a joint venture with 2 other Warner Communications companies. So there with DC Comics, which we all know, right? Batman, Superman, DC Comics. But they're also with the Franklin Mint. Do you know what the Franklin Mint is?
No. Unfamiliar.
So the Franklin Mint, it's like a company that creates collectibles and like jewelry, but the point is they actually smelt and create jewelry and metal items.
Okay, so
right?
They must have made the prizes then.
Exactly. So the Franklin Mint was like kind of a jewelry company, and they're the ones that decided to make these one-of-a-kind collectible items. So Atari would make the games, DC Comics would make the corresponding comic books, and then the Franklin Mint would actually create the treasure. And I have a description from Eurogamer. It's kind of long. I'm going to read the whole thing about what these treasures were. All right?
Okay.
So, quote, the prize for winning the Earthworld contest was the Talisman of Penultimate Truth.
The Sword of 1,000 Truths.
I know, right? Made from solid 18-karat gold and inlaid with diamonds and birthstones of all 12 zodiac signs. On the front was a white gold sword. So that's the first item.
Jeez.
The second item, Fireworld's prize, was the Chalice of Light, made of gold and platinum and adorned with citrines, diamonds, green jade, pearls, rubies, and sapphires. Then there were creations that were never won, and that's debatable. The solid gold crown of life, encrusted with aquamarines, diamonds, green tourmalines, rubies, and sapphires. The Philosopher's Stone, that's the box I was talking about. It's a white jade rock encased in an 18-karat gold box encrusted with diamonds, emeralds, citrines, and rubies. And the grand prize, valued at $50,000 in 1982, the Sword of Ultimate Sorcery, built with a gold handle inlaid with jewels and a silver blade.
Sheesh.
Wow. You could kill werewolves and vampires with the Sword of Ultimate Sorcery.
Yeah.
If you wanted to.
Geralt.
What I'm trying... They made real treasures for a video game. Isn't that wild?
That's pretty cool.
When I was reading this, because I was like kind of trying to figure out what ideas to do, and I read that, and I was like, well, I have to talk about this. This is something I didn't know about, and it's wild that in the 80s, they made treasures explicitly for a video game. I just thought that was so...
And for solving the puzzle between playing the game and reading the comic, that's cool.
And this also feels, if you're like thinking to yourself, hey, this feels very like in modern ages, like Ready Player One-y. Well, guess what? Swordquest is a reference in Ready Player One.
Oh.
So it's like kind of like the video game contest kind of idea, right? So they kind of hint at that in there. So each game would have a treasure, and then after that, the prize winners would all compete. So whoever, the 4 people that won the other 4 items would then compete for the Sword of Ultimate Sorcery. That's what was supposed to happen.
Okay, so what really did happen then, Mike?
Yes. So what really did happen, it started out pretty normal. We're going to talk about the first 2 contests. So for Earthworld, 5,000 players entered the contest. Of all those, and this is the crazy part, only 8 people were correct and were deemed the supreme sages of sorcery. And they submitted the correct phrase, which was quest in tower, talisman found. So they put, those are only 8 people out of 5,000 put the words in order.
Wow.
Isn't that weird? Pretty wild too. That it's just statistically it feels weird.
I'm like, I want to know what the other words were that were hidden. They must have also made like phrases and sentences that made sense. They weren't just like random.
Yeah, exactly. They like tried to probably troll people with sentences that you're like, oh, this probably sounds right, you know?
Yeah,
and it was not right. I kind of want to find the comic books too. I'm guessing they're still out there online. You could read it through them.
Probably.
But yeah, I didn't have time to read the comics, unfortunately. The tournament was held at Atari headquarters in California in May of 1983. And here's what I think is cool. The tournament is Atari made a specially programmed version of Earthworld to complete in 90 minutes. Like that was the goal.
Oh, so that's really... That was the contest. Like we were going to get the contest winners all here, and then they were going to play Earthworld, which supposedly only takes 90 minutes.
Yeah, okay. And they made a game that only 8 people would play, like a special version. Isn't that wild?
Yeah.
They like developed a special version of the game that only 8 people can say they played in the contest. I mean, I'm sure there's people that played it for development purposes, but yeah. The winner was Stephen Bell. There were, according to the article, an unemployed 20-year-old from Detroit. I thought that was kind of mean, but I left it there. Took home the victory, and they completed the game in 46 minutes. Then Bell was given the talisman of penultimate truth. He got the treasure, right? So he has the treasure, and it, like everything I described, it's got the gold inlaid pendant with diamonds and other precious stones, and it had the white gold sword on it. Okay, that white gold sword is important to remember for later. So here's my favorite part of the story, though. Stephen Bell didn't really care. So there's a quote from him that says, like, they're like, "What are you gonna do with the prize?" Right? Like the press is trying to like get him all excited, and he goes, "No plans yet. I didn't really expect to win. Maybe I'll get a car. I've never had one." That's the quote
Cool.
that we got. Yeah. So we'll get back to Steven near the end. But the next contest was for Fireworld. And Fireworld had already been available for purchase for 3 months by the time Earthworld's contest was done, right? So they had people trying to solve the puzzles, and the contest was already way bigger. So they had to give people titles to whittle down contestants, and they actually gave you like certificates in the mail, which I thought was pretty cool based on how many words you got correct. So I thought that was pretty neat.
That's
So
cool.
This is from Atlas Obscura. Quote, "Those with 1 to 2 words correct were named Valiant Stripling. Those with 3 to 4 words correct were named Master Pathfinder. And those who had cracked the whole code were dubbed a Knight of Chalice." And out of those like thousands of people that entered, only 73 this time Knights of Chalice emerged, right? That got the full phrase, but they had to whittle that down to 50. So on top of that, so you get the thing right, and then they go, "Well, now you got to write an essay about why you liked the game." So it's like, "Oh man, I won, sweet." And then they're like, "Well, now you're in an essay contest, so enjoy that." It's kind of a bummer. Yeah. So the 73 Knights of Chalice, that got whittled down to 50, then competed in January of 1984. And it turned out Michael Rideout from Aden, South Carolina, beat the specifically programmed version of Fireworld in 50 minutes, and he won the Chalice of Light. Cool. Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
And Michael Rideout is going to be the hero of this episode, so just keep that in mind.
Oh, I'm excited to hear more about him.
So the third game, Waterworld, was released in February of 1984, and now you may notice we are now past the arcade crash of 1983. So this is where the trouble starts brewing. And the first bad sign is Waterworld had a limited release. You could only get Waterworld if you were an official Atari Club member and you ordered the game by mail, which is never a good sign.
Yeah, not a great sign.
Second bad sign is, according to Atlas Obscura, the entire contest was canceled months later in the middle of 1984. Now, I say the entire contest, but I don't say the third like tournament, because things are going to get weird in a second. So Atari canceled the contest. They gave Stephen Bell and Michael Rideout $15,000 each, as they were supposed to compete for the Sword of Ultimate Sorcery, but they weren't able to, so they got compensated for that, which is actually kind of sick. You just get a check for $15,000.
Yeah, right. I'll take it.
In 1982 or 1984, that's awesome. That's good.
What's the inflation calculator on that?
Yeah, you want to look that up for me?
Yeah.
You want to inflation calculator it? Let's do it.
15,000 in 1984, according to this, in 2025 is 46,000. So yeah, call it 50 grand today. That's pretty good.
Yeah, that's pretty sick. So that's good. So yeah, I would say great work on their part, and also nice of Atari to actually pay them. So this is where things start to get murky. And when I say murky, I mean the articles start to kind of say different things. So the Atlas Obscura article is from 2016. The Eurogamer article is from 2017. Atlas Obscura says the contest is canceled, but Eurogamer says that third and final tournament was actually held. Like they actually did it. And that's coming from Kurt Vendel, the Atari historian. So this is what it says. It says, quote, "The next mystery Swordquest would present would be the Waterworld Finals. The third game was made available only to Atari Club members, and no one who qualified for the finals, which Vendel says had to take place by law, has ever come forward to offer any information on it."
Okay, so by law they had to say they did it, but nobody can say that they participated. So,
but no one can say they participated. So some people think that it took place and there was like a secret winner and they just gave them money. Others think they just like gave everyone who like won and got the correct phrase like the money and split the pot,
yeah,
based on the 25,000. But we don't even know what happened, right?
I feel like if they actually did it, they would have talked about actually doing it. And the fact that they're like being like, oh yeah, we did it. We just don't really want to talk about it. Makes it seem like you didn't really do this.
Yeah. And also I should mention too, that on a side note here, that the value of these items was put into question. Like they were like, this is not really worth that much money. Right. But according to Kurt Vendel, our friend, our historian friend, they had to be valued accurately because like this is a contract they signed that these items were worth this much. So they had to like, and the Franklin Mint, like it's a legitimate company. They're not going to like make up a value. Right.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that makes sense.
They said like the sword was worth $50,000. It was worth $50,000. So that's how much it costs. According to Kurt Vendel, again, a lot of this stuff we're getting into like speculation territory. And now we're going to put on our jewel-encrusted tinfoil hats to get into conspiracy theory territory. Are you ready, Tyler?
Yes.
Okay, so this is where the real stuff goes down. So there's three theories. Three conspiracy theories, or three, not conspiracy theories, three theories. Two of them are conspiracy theories, and the third one I will mention is the one that I believe, and I think that everyone mostly believes. So the first is Atari was purchased by Commodore businessman and previous subject of the podcast, Jack Tramiel. Remember Jack Tramiel?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, he bought Atari during the crash for very little money, and he kind of consolidated it all into Atari Incorporated, or Atari Incorporated. Well, this first conspiracy is that Jack Tramiel, and now his estate, as he has passed away in April 8th, 2012, kept the treasure, and he keeps it hiding in a vault somewhere in his estate. And like he has like the sword and all the stuff, right?
Wow.
That's the first conspiracy
theory.
We
gotta go on a tomb raid.
Yeah, exactly. People want a tomb raid. But this is why this is bogus and why I think it's silly, is that Jack Tramiel bought Atari. He did not buy the Franklin Mint. So when he bought Atari, Franklin Mint still, in theory, had custody of these three treasure items, right?
Gotcha. Yeah.
So I don't think he has them. And the other theory, the other second conspiracy theory, and this is the most like hopeful and wishful, and like we all wish mystery was real in the world, right? Is that all the treasures still exist and they're just waiting to be found. Like people think they maybe just got forgotten about. Like they're in a bank somewhere in a safe deposit box, or like a private collector is going to be like, I actually have the sword of ultimate sorcery, and it's going to show up sometime. This is bogus because how do people forget about gold weapons that are worth, and like treasures that are worth over $100,000? Like that's not something you forget about.
It seems strange to like, I guess I don't know what goes on in the mind of strange rich collectors like this, but like, why would you collect it and then, but not even talk about it? Like you just want it for yourself, and like, that's enough for you. Like, I don't know.
It belongs in a museum is what happens, so that's what people hope for. I mean, I hope for it too. But here's the third and final story, and this is what I believe really happened, is that the three remaining items from Waterworld, the unreleased Airworld, and the grand prize Sword of Ultimate Sorcery were taken back by the Franklin Mint. They were melted down and repurposed. And this is the most plausible theory.
Probably Atari just couldn't pay for it. They were like, we don't have the money.
The business crashed. Franklin Mint had to recoup their costs somehow, so they probably just repurposed them. They want to sell them. They're a company. They want to make money.
Yeah.
Right? Now, on the topic of melting down treasure, Stephen Bell, I told you we'd come back to him, right? The winner of the Earthworld contest. We are now 99.9% sure he melted down the talisman of penultimate truth and he sold it for the gold and the jewels of cash value.
Yeah, dude.
We have to speculate that he bought a car. That's what we have to hope.
Yeah. Well, he never had one.
He never had a car, so I hope he bought a car.
Melted it down. That was kind of a bummer. I wish he would have sold it intact to somebody.
Yeah, Vendel says that he spoke to Bell and he confirmed that he melted it down, but he kept, and this is why I said don't forget this, the white gold sword pendant as a memento. So he saved that part apparently. So apparently that part still exists somewhere in Stephen Bell's stuff. But that means that we only know of one existing piece of treasure still around, and that is the Chalice of Light. So this is why Michael Rideout is the hero of the podcast. Is he still has the Chalice of Light from 1984, 1983. He keeps it in a safe deposit box somewhere, and he just is a collector and he respects the game. And that's why we love Michael Rideout here. Okay, and that's why he's a hero of the podcast. And I will now show you a picture of both Stephen Bell and Michael Rideout. Do you got the thing back up again?
Yep.
So, okay, so here is Stephen Bell.
My
winning,
man.
Holding his soon to be melted down pennant. And then here is Michael Rideout with the chalice. Look at it.
All right.
Look at that wood paneling in the background too.
Oh yeah, this is peak 80s.
This is peak 80s. That's
with
the
that
real
couch
stuff.
too, the floral couch. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, here let's zoom in. Look at that. That's a beautiful couch. Yeah, that couch is in your grandparents' house right now.
Yep.
Probably. So keep that in mind. All right. But I just wanted to show you their pictures because Michael Rideout's the true hero. Okay, never forget that Michael Rideout saved his Chalice of Light. Not like Stephen Bell's a bad guy. We're not going to get mad at him because we get it. You got bills to pay.
Yeah.
But props to Michael Rideout. So, all right, you can unshare the screen now if you haven't already.
I have.
So, perfect. Let's get into the last part of this, and that is the legacy of Swordquest. Okay, so since all this happened, there have been some developments. I mentioned that Polygon article I found from February 20th, 2017. Atari decided to bring back the comics, the Swordquest comics. And this is actually really interesting because instead of continuing the story, they actually placed it in real life and they got like meta about the contest. So here's the description of the plot from the Polygon article. Quote, Peter Case was a boy on a quest. The quest to win the prizes from Atari's Swordquest Challenge.
All right.
He was counting down the days to release of the final game Airworld, only to be shattered when the news surfaced that it would never be released. Now Peter is an adult, and things aren't going well. The bad news is he has to move back in with his mother. The good news is he still has all of his old Atari stuff. With nothing else to look forward to, his obsession with Swordquest is reignited in a more daring and fantastic way.
Ooh.
So we got some weird, like, meta magic weirdness going on. So I actually haven't read the comic. I want to read a comic. It's on Amazon for $8. So I'm going to buy it.
That's
and then
extremely reasonable.
Yeah. So I was going to buy that. And then I was going to report back to the team when I read it. So the comic is called Swordquest Real World, by the way. It was released in February of 2018. And there is a trade paperback version of it. So that's the first part of the legacy. The second and arguably more important piece of the legacy is Airworld came out. Well, kinda. So in 2022, Atari released the Atari 50 collection. That's what I mentioned before. Mm-hmm. This included a version of Swordquest Airworld developed by Digital Eclipse. So I mentioned that Digital Eclipse was one of the developers at the beginning of this episode in the Grime Facts. This is why. So Dave Rees, the developer, actually consulted with the original Swordquest designer, Todd Fry, to get an idea of what the fourth game should be, and he made it, which is really cool. So you go through rooms still, you load through doors, but the other mini game that I saw when I watched the playthrough of this game is that you're on like a Pegasus, and it's like it's falling brick breaker. So when you shoot, your Pegasus goes up a little bit, and you want to like break the bricks and then work your way down, and then enemies show up, and you kill them too with your shooting brick breaker upside down. I thought it was kind of neat.
Cool.
So it's like Brick Breaker and Space Invaders put together, and I thought it looked cool. But yeah, so that's Swordquest. I should mention there are multiple pop culture references to Swordquest. I mentioned already the Ready Player One thing that like mentions Swordquest in the book, because Ready Player One, if you're not familiar, is about like a video game contest set in the future.
It's a whole 80s nostalgia. Yeah.
It is. It really is. Honestly, like it would be cool to talk about that book someday, but I don't really know how it would relate to video game history, except there's a lot of references to video game history, like in that book. So it'd be kind of cool to talk about. Maybe sometime we do a one-off thing. But the other thing I want to talk about is Airworld is actually an SCP. Do you know SCP?
Yeah,
like the online collaborative writing project.
I'm vaguely familiar with SCP stuff.
Yeah, it's like Secure, Contain, Protect is what it stands for, and it's like kind of people making their own organization, like their own secret organization of people that contain these like otherworldly supernatural monsters. And it's actually an Atari 7200 that's like got a copy of Airworld inside of it. And it's like holding these two people hostage with like virtual goggles on. And it's called SCP-1926. So if you're into that, you can read it. It gets much weirder than that. I'm going to tell you right now.
It's like
I read it.
Collaborative creepypasta.
Yes, pretty much. It's collaborative creepypasta. That's the best way to put SCP. But the big takeaway, I think, from this whole thing, legacy-wise, is this was one of the first big video game contests. And it's just a good story, and I loved reading about it through these articles. And I want to give props to Eurogamer, Atlas Obscura, and Polygon because they made it a lot easier to kind of catch up. So I was at a comedy club doing shows all week, just frantically writing the script and reading about it, and I was getting very excited. So I think it's a really cool story. So thanks, Burger Champ, for recommending it. And I think it's just kind of a good little nugget of video game history. But with that, Tyler, what you been playing?
Well, I'm still working my way through Star Wars Outlaws, having a great time. I've been rewatching the Star Wars movies as well, so I'm like still in a Star Wars mood. And then when I'm playing portable stuff, because my AYN Thor has arrived.
Ooh, you want to open it and show the world?
Yeah,
show the people the dual screens.
Yes, so I'm currently working my way through Pokemon Alpha Sapphire, as you can see here. It's nighttime
on high resolution.
Yeah, it's running at 1080p on the top screen. The bottom screen is I want to say it's 1024 by 1080. Two OLED screens, both of them touch screen. It's got two joysticks, Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 processor. So it's like that's probably a flagship Android processor from like, I don't know, 2 or 3 years ago. So plays pretty much everything, lots of Switch stuff. I've been having a lot of fun messing around with that and like Game Hub and getting emulated PC games running on there. I did get Borderlands Game of the Year Enhanced Edition running. It runs very nicely, at least in the indoor area that I was playing in. It was full 60 frames per second on all low settings. We'll see how it does when I get outside, I suppose. But it's I've been having a lot of fun just messing around with that. So Star Wars Outlaws and Pokemon Alpha Sapphire, trying not to get caught up in like playing too many games at once. Because I do have Metroid Prime still on the back burner that I need to come back to as well, but I want to get through some stuff first. So I'll probably play some Pokemon during the Super Bowl, which has not happened yet. But as you are listening to this, we will know if the Seahawks or the Patriots won.
But we're like 10 minutes away.
Yeah,
Super Bowl when
that's
we're recording this.
Yeah,
because someone had to charge their camera.
It's you.
I'm the one that had to charge the camera. So
yeah. So what have you been playing, Mike?
Oh boy. So I'm back on my Stardew Valley mission to get a perfection run. And I've gotten farther in it by just like focusing and being like, what do I need to do? And like making a plan and just going one at a time. So that's been kind of exciting to have process. That's what I'm going to be doing during the Super Bowl. Because while I'm wearing a Seahawks jersey and I'm a Seahawks fan, I have a hard time. I get anxious during these games. I do. Like I have to do something while I'm watching to like kind of ease my brain a little bit. In fact, my wife made fun of me because I was like, we're going to watch Super Bowl, right? And then she was like, yeah, are you going to do the thing you normally do where you watch the first quarter and then go play video games because you get too stressed out and then come back with 2 minutes in the fourth quarter? And I was like, yes, probably. That's probably what I'm going to do. So, but I get too stressed out. So I've been playing that. And then I also I finally played it, Shadow of Mordor.
Oh, yeah.
I started playing Shadow of Mordor. I'm really enjoying it. It's got Batman Arkham Knight Arkham City combat where you like build up combos and you counter with Y, and like after you build up combos for a certain amount, you can do like special execute moves. And playing it through Steam, it just runs really well. It's really fun.
Nice.
Kind of nice just playing a linear, well, it's open world, but it's still it's at that age, in games where the world is not as open as you think it is, just because it's like the limitations of technology.
Yeah, because it came out, what,
like,
2012, 2013 or something?
Yeah, I feel like Shadow of War gets much more open world
2014.
and stuff. But I really wanted to play it because I really want to talk about the Nemesis system on this podcast. And I wanted to experience it before I talk about it, because that's something that keeps popping up as the Nemesis system gets purchased and passed around by different companies. How people really, because it's like not patented, copywritten.
Yeah, they have a patent on it or something.
They have a patent. They essentially, you cannot make a game with something similar to the Nemesis system right now because you would get sued.
Yeah,
is what they're saying, which is wild to think.
Yeah,
but that's the case. So, but yeah, I've been playing that. It's been really fun. Other than that, though, that's kind of all I've been playing.
Yeah,
so we did it.
Great job.
Great work, Tyler. If you want to support us, you can join our Discord. Go to codexpodcast.net. There's an invite that never expires. You can also go to you can email us at codexhistorypodcast@gmail.com. And with that, Tyler, do you want to say goodbye today to everybody?
Goodbye, everybody.